Hello buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. We are playing Ayase's route, which I think is called A Bloody Contract for Your Sins, or something to that effect, right? Currently, we're talking to Ayase, we're in the middle of the ruined town, and it seems like reality is bouncing between our reality and Ayase's reality, which is I don't know. Everything's covered in rust, I know that much. I also know that everyone is kind of like the worst versions of themselves. Everyone is deviants and murderers, etc. I also know that I've got a decorator outside my house right now, and I'm a bit nervous that he'll be able to hear me, but we're just going to push on forward. Anyway, Ayase is saying that eventually so everybody has a reality. Reality is this weird world that's covered in rust. Ours is something else. And essentially, Ayase is saying that all of these realities are going to converge and become one, which is bad, apparently. Ayase has been collecting all of the Giglomaniacs' D-swords. We think just by murdering them, essentially, is what it looks like. And I think that she's probably going to murder me. But we might have made our peace with that. Anyway, we're going to move on. So she's got every Giglomaniacs. She's got every Giglomaniacs D-sword. Try and say that 3 times. And something's going to happen. She says, "Come on, May. You will obtain your D-sword. I know you will." I told you. It's impossible. I can't. Before, I thought that I might as well just stick with Ayase. I had no one else that could have protected me after all. But the more we spent together, it became very clear to me. I couldn't understand how Ayase thought at all. The difference in how our minds perceived the world around us was just too great. And if I was being honest, I was fed up with how fucking batshit insane she was. She was a complete mental case, through and through. I really am a horrible person. And I've always been that way. I've never changed. How could you say that? Ayase clung to me, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't the calm, aloof Ayase I was used to. I do not want to stay in a world like this any longer. Please, set me free. You are my only hope, Obi-Wan. You must awaken as a Black Knight, a Giglomaniac. Yeah, why does she call them Black Knights? Is it just purely her delusion? Is there an actual reason why she says that? I mean, I'm guessing that for some reason in her reality they're called Black Knights. But yeah, I really don't know. I mean, it's been a week. Have I forgotten something? I feel like that would have been established already. I know that it's supposed to be based on this book that she's reading that's blank, but to her is this Gladiol, the Book of Revelations of Gladiol or something? Or whatever. Psalms of Revelation? I can't. Yes, you can. Oh. And we're back to the Rust world. Ah! I synchronized with her world once again. A black miasma poured out of Ayase's chest and entwined itself around my body. It slithered around the top of my skin like an anaconda slowly strangling its prey to death. Its repulsive, chilling presence was enough to give me goosebumps. It was Ayase's pure, unadulterated desire. I, just like any other person, wasn't used to seeing people's naked emotions. It's a funny way to write a scream, isn't it? Because I just read that as just eek. It's not how I would scream. A flash of static. You are my hope. Ayase stared at me. Her eyes dyed pitch black. I will not let you go. You will stay with me, no matter what I must do to meet that end. Ayase's fingers started undoing my jacket buttons one by one. Uh-oh. I want you. Okay, well, Takumi's gonna like this if anyone is. She was as close as could possibly be. just like the time we'd made out in the hospital room closet. I was like a deer in the headlights, I couldn't move. Once she finished undoing all of my buttons, my chest was exposed, but she didn't stop. She moved down, took off my belt, and unzipped my pants.
I want your power.
Ayase's ice-cold fingertips caressed my chest, and then her nails dug into me. The pain was so intense, and yet I still couldn't move an inch. Why'd she take my pants off if she was just going to dig her nails into my chest? Seems unnecessary. Just going to humiliate me in front of all these people. Ah! Ugh.
I want it.
Her fingers gouged out my flesh. They raked their way to my bones. They raked their way to my bones. Her hand reached deep inside, then gently embraced my pounding heart. I was trembling, out of fear, out of pain, out of the cool sensation of Ayase's fingers.
It's so warm. May I have it?
Stop! Oh, here we go. Wow, we're going to finish this chapter now. I could feel my blood vessels exploding. Copious amounts of blood spilled from my chest. She took it out. My heart! My heart! She... My voice croaking because I'm getting emotional. Nothing to do with the fact that this is the first recording of the day. Ah! The world switched colours in an instant. It had gone back to its original dull colour. The rust had vanished, and I was completely unharmed. I put my hand on my chest. Thankfully, I could feel it beating. My heart was still there. My heart was still in it. Ayase was standing in front of me, clutching herself with both arms. She looked so incredibly sad, like she was about to burst into tears. At any moment. There it was again. The same look as when she had taken USD sword. The same as when I'd first seen her world back at the Scrambling Crossing. The same as when she'd obtained Senna's and Kozupi's D-sword. Ayase looked at me on the verge of tears, doing everything she could to hold them back.
Takumi, I didn't mean to do that. My wicked heart spiraled out of control, as did I. Perhaps because I took in too many D-swords. I'm descending into madness, brought forth by the wicked-hearted king's erosion of my mind.
Wasn't it all just another one of her delusions? Wasn't it all just fake words meant to trick me? Those thoughts suddenly came to mind, but I didn't say them out loud. I just couldn't. Ayase was a girl who rarely showed any emotion, with her unwavering tone giving her clear command of any conversation she ever had. That was why it was so hard to see her like this. I'd never seen her so sad before. She looked so fragile, like she could fall apart at even the slightest touch. Because of that, I knew that I couldn't tell her what I was really thinking. What should I do? When those words left my lips, the slightest of tears began to flow from the corner of her eyes. She looked to me with a gaze that showed how much she truly needed me.
I am being subjugated by the wicked-hearted king. If nothing is done, I'll not be able to remain conscious. Therefore, excise it. Excise the impurity, the erosion of my wicked heart.
Excise it? How?
You saw my world, did you not?
I don't like where this is going.
That black miasma is the manifestation of the impurity dwelling within people's wicked hearts. Their true malice. Grasp that and uproot it from my body.
There was no way. I could never do something so horrifying.
Please, Takumi. I want to be myself. Please, rescue me from my world.
Losing her balance, Ayase fell to the ground. Her figure was as frail as could be. But we had made a promise to each other. One she'd said herself.
I will protect you, so please protect me as well.
Senna and Kosupe had already been broken, and Rinmu was nowhere to be found. I didn't want to lose Ayase too. There was an element of selfishness to it. But most of all, I wanted to help her. I was fully aware that it wasn't within my ability to do so. But still, even if Ayase really was some crazy, hopeless schizo girl, even if all of this was just her delusion, I wanted to help her with all my heart. But right as I realised that sentiment, the world turned to rust yet again. The snake-shaped black miasma pouring out of Ayase's chest reared its head. Just looking at it made me feel sick. It felt like something was pressing down on my chest and I couldn't look away. But even if I could, it wouldn't change anything. That's why I knew I had to try and face it head on. But I couldn't bear it. It felt like my chest was being crushed. My migraine was splitting my head apart. I couldn't do it. I never could have. I didn't have the strength to help anyone.
Takumi.
I looked up in response to Ayase's call. She held her hand out to me, her tear-filled eyes locked with mine.
Come. Do as you wish with me.
Are we going to be uncomfortable for the rest of this episode? She showed complete trust in me. Or perhaps she was depending on me. I never had someone depend on me before. My mind was about to crumble, but Ayase's voice was just barely managed to keep it together. I bit my lip and then I took a single step towards Ayase. With me as its new prey, Ayase's black miasma moved toward me and entwined itself around my neck. It was so cold it nearly tricked my mind into thinking it was hot. It eased me into its embrace, but all the while, it was gently strangling me to death. Ayase leaned against me. Her body had gone completely limp. I was forced to support her entire body weight.
Takumi.
I tightly embraced her slender hips. You don't have to fit slender in there. Are you really sure about this?
I am.
With a gulp, I reached my hand toward the black miasma pouring out of her chest. Following only an ephemeral moment, the miasma changed from into that of a black leech, an act that only served to make it all the more repulsive. That was Ayase's wicked heart, laid bare. The most hideous part of herself that she didn't want anyone else to see. That was what the mass was. So it's all a metaphor. I took hold of the leech's body. It was extremely slippery, and it was so cold, it stung at my palm. I wanted to let go the second I grabbed it, but in a desperate attempt to hold on, I clenched my teeth and endured it. Ayase groaned in pain, her face a horrid mixture of ecstasy and agony. Okay. Alright, Kay, I said. Calm down.
But pull it out. Take it out.
I tried pulling with all my might, but could feel her flesh being torn apart.
Yeah.
Black liquid burst from her chest, covering my body from head to toe. Whether it was blood or something else, I didn't know. Despite all this, I pressed on, pulling on the leech as hard as I could.
It's...
Are you okay? Unable to take her screams any longer, I stopped my hands in place, hands atop which Ayase had placed her own.
Do not stop her!
I don't like the symbolism of all of this.
It's working.
Even though her body was drenched in sweat, Ayase firmly reassured me. I couldn't hesitate again. If I did, I'd only be torturing her. Come out! Using every ounce of strength. The power of God. What is it that? The power of God. They say. What do they say? Those little guys, those exorcists. Power of God. Power of Christ compels you. They say Christ. That's why I wasn't getting it. The power of Christ compels you, Ayase. Using every ounce of strength I had, I grasped the leech and pulled it out. Ayase's body twisted and writhed. The leech slithered around. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be. Oh, do we not get a picture of the leech? The leech curled into a circular mass and wrapped itself around my arm. It tightened hard against my fist. I guess it was the Wicked Heart's last stand. I clenched my teeth to endure the pain. I was glad that I'd gotten it off Ayase at least, but I wasn't sure what to do with it now.
Pray.
Having entrusted her entire body to me, Ayase gently caressed my cheek.
And by your hand, the impure Wicked Heart shall be reborn into the one of the purest wickedness.
Is that me? I'm not the purest wickedness. What are you doing? I mean, if you were going to say anyone in this game was purely wicked, you could maybe have a strong argument that it's Takumi. The black Wicked Heart wriggled on my arm. Suddenly shone violet. A sound burst forth from it. A sound so shrill it was akin to the loudest of screams. Not my screams. A nice shade of purple. The Wicked Heart turned into a sword. Oh, it's my sword? Is this a D-sword? I'd wanted one so bad, but I'd never been able to get one no matter how hard I tried. But now it was finally in my grasp. Ayase's Wicked Heart had transformed into a D-sword. So is this her D-sword? Or is this my D-sword? I don't think it makes sense if it was my D-sword, surely.
You've finally awakened, Takumi.
Even amid her intense pain, Ayase smiled in my arms. Sweat ran down her brow profusely, adhering her bangs to her forehead.
Thank you so much for awakening.
What had I done to deserve her gratitude? I didn't know. I had no faith in myself.
Takumi.
Ayase draped her hands around my neck, and then she tightly embraced me.
You're the only one to ever listen to me. I'm overjoyed. Truly overjoyed.
Ayase's body was really warm. The black liquid on her chest was slowly turning red. Her blood stained my clothes. But I didn't care. I held Ayase tightly in acceptance. She still had trouble breathing. I could feel her back tremble with every breath. The smell of her sweat rose in the air. Even that part of her was as lovely as the rest. Sure it was, Takumi.
I love you.
Has Ayase fallen in love with me? I may or may not depend on her. But I know she depends on me. So, I don't think a relationship like this will be too bad. Just the two of us. And this black leech. Suddenly, the sky behind Ayase's shoulders caught my attention. It was changing from vermilion to black. But only in a single spot. Or perhaps it was merely an illusion, and in reality the spot was just a star. Nonetheless, the spot gradually grew bigger. If it continued at such a speed, it would soon blanket the entire sky. What is that? I mumbled that to myself, completely dumbfounded. Also noticing the unnatural phenomenon, Ayase quickly stood back up, using my shoulders to help herself to do so.
That is the awakened, wicked-hearted king. His invasion has finally begun. In the end, was I too late? Can I do nothing to stop it? That I cannot accept.
Yeah, it wasn't Ayase's D-sword. It was my D-sword that was inside her heart. Is that what we're saying? Or I just transformed the leech into my D-sword. Ayase brought forth her D-sword, materializing it from an empty space. What are you planning to do?
What was written in the Gladiel Book of Psalms and Revelation.
That's what that book was called.
Once the 7 D-swords are gathered, the colossal serpent of darkness shall appear. It is the embodiment of the purity of wicked hearts. A one wicked heart capable of slaughtering another. A being that can devour the corrosion, shatter the wicked-hearted king's body, and instill heterogeneity. Heterogeneity.
Let's define that very quickly. Geneity. Okay, so let's listen to it first. What is this?
Heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity. The quality of state of being diverse in character or content. The quality of being diverse in character. Oh, okay.
And instill heterogeneity in his homogeneity.
Which I'm guessing homogeneity is the opposite, is it? Oops.
Homogeneity.
Homogeneity. The quality of state of being all the same or all the same kind. I guess that makes sense. Okay.
We must make the colossal serpent appear, so that it may overthrow Gladiel.
Ayase was still trembling, and yet she readied her D-sword all the same and closed her eyes the very next moment. It almost seemed like she was meditating. But even after waiting a moment, nothing happened. Meanwhile, the sky had fully turned black. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was nighttime. But no, the sun hadn't set. It was the black miasmata, amalgamated into a mist that was spreading across Shibuya. Transforming into a wave, it sought to drown the city in wicked hearts. It slowly crept over the rubble-filled earth, painting every inch it touched black. Silently, it eroded. It swept over our feet. Ah! I croaked. A croak of despair came from my mouth. The corroded world was now rotting away. It decomposed, crumbled, and then it all returned to nothing. People, corpses, and debris alike. Everything slowly melted together, and from the amalgam came an overpowering rotten stench. Ayase, can't you do something?
Why?
Ayase wasn't responding to me. She simply stared at the D-sword she held in her hand, her eyes on the verge of tears.
We collected all 7 D-swords. So why does it not appear? It left unabated. Gladiel will swallow the whole world. The world whole. All of it, you know. Did I truly have to gather all 7 Black Knights themselves? I must have had to follow the prophecy precisely.
I'll take that again.
I must have had to follow the prophecies precisely.
I still didn't do it, but fuck it.
And I failed.
The black wave was groaning even faster than before. When I say groaning, I mean growing. It had only been up to my ankles a few seconds ago, and now it was already up to my knees. Strangely enough, I felt some resistance to the flow of it. Did it actually have physical substance? Was it really not just a simple illusion? Filled with horror, a shiver ran down my spine. Shibuya was actually going to rot away. Ayase, just come up with a delusion, a delusion that'll defeat Gladiel. Unable to hold it any longer, I screamed at her. But Ayase just shook her head.
The Book of Gladiel are not my delusion. The books of Gladiel.
Even then, it should be possible for you, or even me, to just distort the prophecy, come up with a new delusion and make it into reality, right? Isn't that what Giglomaniacs, I mean, Black Knights do?
But, Takumi...
Ayase stared my way, her gaze pleading with me.
I do not know what to do.
Oh God. I was at a loss for words. The world was covered by the black miasma. The sky was pitch black, blocking out any and all light. Not even a single star remained. The black wave was already up to my hips. It felt like I was going to be washed away by its current any second now. It took everything I had to stay standing. A corpse beside me melted into the liquid and was then swept away by the churning waters. If I let it swallow me up, that was exactly what would happen to me too. The mere thought terrified me so much, I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. What do I do? What the hell do I do? I desperately tried to think of a solution, but I couldn't come up with any. I was no hero. I was just an otaku freak. And even though I'd finally got a D-sword, I had no idea how to use it. So that had ended up being just as useless to me. Everyone would be better off if I just died. I should just get impaled by a bunch of stakes and bleed out, like in the crucifixion case. But right when I thought that, I suddenly remembered something. The songs Fez had written. The lyrics. Sing a song. Of sixpence. Despite how it might have sounded, it wasn't something I'd come up with as a last resort. No. I was convinced that it was the best and also only solution I could have ever come up with. Your songs are how you share your delusions with the world, Ayase. And the world she spun with them captivated the youth of Shibuya. The Gladiel saga was a legend of dubious authenticity that might or might not have been true. It could have all just been Ayase's delusion, and she was the only one who had any knowledge of it. But that didn't matter. The legend had been spread to the youth of Shibuya through Phantasm's songs, therefore mutual recognition had already been achieved. Interesting. So, sing your heart out. Sing a song to overthrow Gladiel. Fez.
You're telling me to sing? Right now?
Didn't you say that guidance appears through song or something?
Yes, I did say that. I said it on stage. And then I came to meet you at the concert, Takumi. Takumi.
Ayase extended her hand to me. I took her hand in my own and squeezed it tightly.
Do you like my songs, Takumi?
Takumi's like, sure. Yeah. I listened to the album I bought from that concert many times. I'd left the concert early due to my fear of crowds, but she made me want to try again, and again, and again. However many times it would take. Seeing me nod along, Ayase started to sing. Smiled blissfully. Ah, that's all she wanted. To say that her songs were cool.
Well, if your words are true, then I'm not bothered by the idea of perishing here. I will sing. Listen well, Takumi.
Ayase closed her eyes, took a few moments to focus before finally letting out a deep breath. Then she opened her eyes. She was no longer. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer Ayase anymore. She was Fez. She was Fez from Phantasm.
A contract of blood to seal our sin.
She quietly murmured the song's name, and then she burst into song, Her voice reverberated toward the pitch-black sky.
Strike the stake, strike the stake. Rend the dark night and bathe in moonlight. Thousands of iron hammers become thy pain, now thou art released. Before long the screams flutter in the air, and the night sky is dyed a brilliant red. The crossed stake become your strength, and you'll soon reach salvation.
The lyrics were a hint. Ayase, strike the stake! This song wasn't prophesizing the crucifixion case at all. Combine the 7 D swords and drive them into the dark night. There was no doubt in my mind. It was a song meant to overthrow Gladiel. A song to release Ayase from her world corroded by rust and red. Destroy your world, Ayase! Ayase stared at me, her eyes burning with a fiery passion. Ayase looked her most beautiful when she was singing. Her energy had completely changed. The damsel in distress from before was nowhere to be seen. Ayase understood what I was trying to say, and without saying a word, she nodded. I poured all my strength into our joined hands, and while desperately fighting against the power of the black wave, I entrusted my D-sword to Ayase. The moment she grabbed it, it was engulfed in red light and swiftly disappeared. But it hadn't been destroyed. As if it had been guided there, the red light was taken in by Ayase's D-sword. Once I knew that for sure, I let go of Ayase's hand. Ayase unleashed her power as a Black Knight. An enormous burst of wind came forth, blasting the world with enough force to make everything around her tremble. The black wave was struck by that pressure, turning into a whirlpool. There wasn't a fragment of her usual indifference in her anymore, but apparently there was in mine, because I couldn't say that sentence. Ayase took a stance. She took a stance. She spread her legs, lowering her hips, and held her sword high. Her whole body was overflowing with not just strain, but a strong will, the will to look toward the future. She was just barely able to hold her urge for pure destruction. She had to wait for the perfect opportunity to unleash it all. The red flicker of the sword grew faster. That sword is that which bends fate to its will. That sword is that which converges all sorrows. That sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place. Fueled by wicked hearts designed to rend others, its edge was doubled. Its edge was double. It was the manifestation of all the cries for salvation that arose from Ayase's soul, an embodiment of Ayase's chaotic heart. Come on, Ayase, you can do it. Ayase's gaze was focused on a single point. The black heavens. The ones that shrouded my blue sky. The ones that shrouded Ayase's red sky. A sky born with from all the impurity dwelling within wicked hearts. One that brought nothing but darkness to the world. The only thing I could do was pray. That is the right spelling. For a second I thought it wasn't, but it is. Would the Black Knights triumph? Or would Gladiel prevail? Our fates were resting on Ayase's shoulders. And yet for some inexplicable reason I knew. Just as foretold in the legend of Ayase had orchestrated. We would never lose to the wicked-hearted king. So, Ayase, strike it. Strike it and pierce through the world itself!
Open, O heaven's gate!
Her entire body curved like a bow, being drawn. And then with all the strength vested in her, she cast her shot forth. Interesting shot. I think if I saw that for a second, I wouldn't have known what it was. The sword carved a trail of light, blew away the darkness with a loud boom, and pierced through the vermilion heavens. It had completely penetrated it. The sky began to crack. The crack spread throughout the entire sky, and before long, accompanied by a flood of sound, the entire world shattered. Go ahead, Ayase. Do I need to press anything? Or have we done it? Credits? Yes! And that is the end of another route. Cool. So the next route we've got up is a route called... Where is it? Let's just skip this for now. So the next route we have... Oh, have we got any text to say? Oh! When I came to, the brilliant light had returned to the world. The sky was blue. The colour that couldn't be put into words. And yet I knew the sky I was looking at right now was definitely blue. Gladeel must have been overthrown. Or at the very least the black miasma plague in the world had disappeared. And now a warm, soft hand tightly clasped my own. Ayase was standing by my side, looking up to the exact same sky I was. Without saying a word, tears poured from her eyes.
To think blue was such a beautiful colour.
You can see it.
I can. I'm seeing the same colour in the sky as you, Takumi.
And what a clear colour it was. So clear I could feel it in my chest. So clear it almost hurt to look at. Who knew that the sky above was so clear? Before now, I'd never once realised. Shibuya was in shambles, transformed into a city of death. Not even a glimmer of its former glory was left in it. And yet, Ayase, appearing more dazzling than ever, looked fondly over it all.
I could never imagined the world would be such a beautiful place.
And with those words, Ayase gently clasped my hand. The end. Hooray! Alright, good job. Okay, the next one that we'll be doing is a disease that leads to slaughter. I think that's following Kozui. So that'll be fun to do. We will do that next time on Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head. And I will see you next time. Have a good evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye-bye.